As we talk today about the ever-growing concept of Black Americans moving back to Africa, I have to admit that I have long grappled with the innate conflict of identifying as both Black and American. The great 20th century intellectual W.E.B. Du Bois called this the double conscience. Now, I used to reject my American identity because I always felt that it came at the expense of being a fully whole and liberated Black woman. Now, I have come to evolve on this issue to some degree, and I want to share with you an excerpt from my newly released book, Bet on Black, The Good News About Being Black in America Today. Chapter 5, entitled, James Baldwin says that I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. Baldwin has it right. The right to protest, to demand that our nation be held accountable for the injustices that it condones, can be a fundamental part of our national identity as Black people. And thus it will pose no conflict when we embrace our racial identity as well as our American one. For us to take a step back away from our nationality as Americans, I say would be a mistake. And I encourage you to develop a mindset that sees your Americanness and your devotion to this country, our country, as fundamental to your Blackness. Now, that's a lot, and know that I did not always feel this way. In fact, I was once a proponent of Black people having our own separate parcel of land in North America, and I couldn't have cared less whether it was viewed as being a part of the United States or not. This harkens back to my undergrad days at UNC Chapel Hill, when during my Black Studies classes, I was shaping my perspective in profound ways. It was there in those classrooms that I learned about activist Marcus Garvey and his Universal Negro Improvement Association as he came up in our classroom, and his Pan-African ideas around liberation intrigued me. See, Garvey believed that in a perfect world, the U.S. government would have sent the formerly enslaved Africans back to Africa, because he, like most smart people at the time, knew there was no real plan for Black folks to live in America as fully liberated first-class citizens. Even Lincoln did not suppose this once he allegedly emancipated us. Now, Garvey essentially believed that since we were not sent back to our homeland, that we should gather our resources, connect our economics, and we should send ourselves back to Africa under our own power. And from 1820 to 1865, anywhere from 11,000 to 16,000 freed Black Americans opted to do just that. They moved from America to the African nation of Liberia. Now, the idea of finding power in relocation and movement, that continues to capture the imaginations of Black folks all around the world to this day. Let's be clear. The notion of Black folks seeking refuge and opportunity, whether by going abroad or staying here in America, that is fundamental to the Black experience. Black people have been American since the very first establishment of this nation. And I say that white folks don't get to benefit from continuing to do traumatic and inhumane stuff to us in this self-serving interest of pushing us, Black people, out of our nation, whether they do it literally or rhetorically. Keep in mind, this is coming from a person who at one time, and really still today, feels that Garvey and other Pan-Africans are onto something. I still believe that the Back to Africa movement has valid elements. I just say that our approach to this concept has to be holistic, and it has to acknowledge who we are as Black Americans. Now, if we want to go back to Africa to explore our ancestral roots and understand better our elements as Black folk in this world, I think that's fantastic and important. But for those who are interested in permanently going back to the motherland, do you, but do so while being aware of the contemporary realities of the continent today. Don't go looking for Wakanda. It's not there. And I want you to be mindful that your perspective of this world and how you move through spaces, yes, even on the continent of our homeland, has been shaped tremendously by your experiences as a Black American.